Circle, and today we have another episode of Is It Shit? Since we're now off the Legio Custode, we're now back onto the Legione Astartes. So, today we're looking at the Leviathan Dreadnought. Yes, this one's actually been much requested because people aren't quite sure what to make of it, and I don't blame them. Because, me personally, I have a lot of misgivings about the unit, but we'll get into that shortly. The model comes in at 270 points base. You can get these guys in a talent of up to 3. Weapon skill and ballistic skill is 5. You have a stock strength of 8. The armor is front and side 13, rear 12. It's initiative 4, has 4 attacks and 4 hull points. So, relatively tanky in the world of dreadnoughts. In fact, the tankiest. The unit type is obviously a walker. The war gear is 2 Leviathan Siege Cores with an inbuilt melter gun. And that's already got its extra attack included in the base profile, so you don't get 5 attacks. That's the inbuilt melter gun and of course the core on screen. Now, it also has a smoke launcher, a searchlight, 2 torso-mounted heavy flamers, which in this case have been swapped to Volkites, more on that shortly, but nipple flamers, always a good option. Frag grenades, great. I'm assuming that's what all these little dots are here, modelled on it, so it's nice they're actually modelled on for a change. As well as extra armour, and yeah, this thing's pretty beefy. The special rules include reinforced adamantic shielding, crushing charge, dreadnought talon, and move through cover. It may also take a dedicated transport. A Leviathan Dreadnought talon numbering a single dreadnought may select a Legion Dreadnought drop pod or Charybdis assault core as a dedicated transport. Note that owing to its size, it may be not be transported in other types of drop pod. Yep, great. At a minimum, though, you're looking at around 350 points just to field one of these. The Charybdis Assault Core itself is very pricey, so they are the best delivery methods, but you're paying through the teeth to do it. So, I don't know. I really don't know. That's Primarch territory, that kind of points limits. That's Knight territory. In fact, that's quite a lot of the problems I have with this model stems from that. Now, any Dreadnought may exchange either of their heavy flamers for a twin-linked Volkite caliber at 5 points each. Fantastic upgrade. If you're Blood Angels, why aren't you putting on assault cannons? Now, any Dreadnought may exchange either the Leviathan Siege Cores with an inbuilt melter gun for a Leviathan Siege Drill with an inbuilt melter gun, which is obviously modelled on the right arm of this lovely Death Guard model. Any Dreadnought may be equipped with Armoured Ceramide at plus 20 points each. Yeah, maybe. It's a maybe in this situation, because this thing costs so many points already. What's more points? It's kind of like in poker, when you become committed to the pot, as they say, where you've already put so much money in, it's going to be worse for you in the long run to pull out. So, that's what it is, right? It's a massive points investment, one of these, especially a Talon. You may as well just buy the fucking Ceramite. It may also be equipped with a Phosphex Charger at plus 15 points each. The Phosphex Charger is pretty good. I highly recommend taking it. That's, of course, the miniature Cyclone missile launcher looking thing on top of it. Now, any Dreadnought may exchange either of their Siege Cores with inbuilt melter gun for one of the following weapons. Note that each Siege Core is replaced, and for each Siege Core replaced, the Dreadnought loses 1 attack. So, theoretically, you can drop down to 2 attacks by going for full DACA. Well, not theoretically, that's exactly what will happen. So, your options are a Leviathan Storm Cannon for 10 points, a Cyclonic Melter Lance for 20 points, and a Grav Flux Bombard for 20 points. So, what is the Leviathan Siege Core? It's double strength, AP 2, it has melee, it's a melee weapon, of course. It's a wrecker, so very nasty against buildings, and has a rule called Severing Cut. The severing cut is that each time a non-vehicle model actually suffers an unsaved wound from this weapon, you have to roll a d6, and on a 4+, the model suffers an extra d3 wounds. They can try and save them, but they have to be saved individually, and it uses the weapon's base profile, so it'll be Strength 10, AP 2. Pretty fucking nasty. The Leviathan Siege Drill is melee, Wrecker, and Armour Bane, but is otherwise identical. So, also another good option. Me personally, I prefer one of each, as the loadout is here, because they give you great versatility against vehicles, against buildings. You're going to be certain that if you punch a knight or something with this fist, it is going to hit home. Now, here's where things get a bit iffy. Leviathan Storm Cannon. That's this big quad auto cannon looking thing over here. The Leviathan Storm Cannon is cheap. Let's get that out of the way straight away. It's range 24 inches, strength 7, AP 3, heavy 6 with Sunder, which is kind of like Tank Hunters. I don't rate it. It's too short range. It's basically a more bolt cannon that shoots twice. You can get that kind of firepower so many other ways, right? You can take a fucking Fire Raptor that at least can fly to stay out of danger. You can take a whole bunch of Castellax. You know, you can get probably 3. We'll say 3 Castellax for the same price as one of these Dreadnoughts with this gun. Is it worth it? I don't think so. I think the 3 Castellax will look after you better in the long run than this thing will. Now, I should put a little asterisk there. In certain situations, this will be better. Now, the other weapon model on it is the the Gravit Bombard. This is ranged 18 and AP 2. It has a bunch of special rules. It's a heavy one, pinning, large blast of 5 inches, has the Graviton Collapse rule, the Torsion Crusher rule, and no cover saves. So, what are these rules? Well, first off, the Torsion Crusher rule. When a target with an armor value is struck by this weapon, the amount of hull point damage caused by the weapon is doubled. So you're always going to do 2 hull points, not 1. Alright, cool. So is it like other Grav, which has the Haywire special rule? No, it's not. Go fuck yourself. Instead, the way it works is this thing called Graviton Collapse. Instead of rolling to wound normally with the weapons, any model caught in the blast must roll equal or under their strength on 2d6 or suffer a wound. Okay, good against infantry. Pretty much guaranteed. Even only monstrous creatures, toughness 7 and up, will generally pass this. Everything else is pretty much condemned to taking an AP2 wound. So, fantastic, it will cause wounds on infantry. However, against armour, you have to roll 3d6 for the armour penetration instead. After the Graviton pulse has been fired, you leave the blast marker in play, and this area now counts as both difficult and dangerous terrain for the next turn thanks to the gravity flux. I think Graviton is a fantastic way of channeling units, especially if you drop it onto enemy Death Stars, Primarchs, big command squads, units like Terminators, especially in Cataphractii armor, because the difficult terrain will slow them down. It will buy you time, right, for the rest of your army to get into positions or to get away or do what you need to do. I really advocate for that option. However, 3d6 armor penetration is fucking terrible. Why do the Vindicare Assassin 40k, why do they always have 4d6 armor penetration? Well, the average dice roll is generally a 3 or a 4. The average, right? On 3d6, you're looking at a 10 or 11 as your average. 10 or 11, what the fuck's that going to hurt? A Rhino? See, this is a big points investment. You buy this Dreadnought, right? Let's say the one modelled here. The one modelled here is 270 points base. You're then paying an extra 15 points for the Phosphex Discharger on top of it, so you're now at 285. Next thing you're going to do is buy the Leviathan Storm Cannon, 295. And then a Grav Flux Bombard. I keep getting the two mixed around. Apologies. So you're now at give or take 315 points. 315 points is marginally less than a knight. And there are knights that can fire, in this case of the Acastus, they have D weapons. There are knights like the Lancer who have an equal invulse save, especially if they're a seneschal, they'll be looking at 3+ invulse saves, right? There are knights that have equally good firepower to this, and they're super heavy walkers, right? This is a fucking dreadnought, and it is a big dreadnought too. That base it's on, it's a 100mm base. A Contemptor comes up to about this round vent on its chest in height. This thing is fucking huge. I mean, look at it next to a Marine. It is 2.5 Marines tall, give or take, right? If not more. In fact, this is out of scale, this picture, so I don't know why they even bothered to put it up, frankly. But yeah, this thing's big. This thing is halfway between a Contemptor in size and a Knight Errant. So you have a big unit that costs a lot of points, right? It's too close in points to a Knight at this point, right? You either need this thing to be cheaper or more expensive, and I think that's what lets it down as a unit, and that's why I've got to give it a mediocre rating. I can't give it bad because it has viability, right? But it's mediocre, I'll tell you that right now, and I haven't even gone over the last weapon yet, which is of course the Cyclonic Melter Lance. And I do believe I've got a picture of that as well. Yes, so that's this 6-barreled melter gun. You think it'd be really cool like a Tau one? It's not really. It's Strength 9, AP 1, Heavy 3 melter, range 18. So a 3-shot multi-melter. Slightly better strength, it's Strength 9. Woo, yeah, 20 fucking points right there. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just don't know how to take it. Really? If you deep strike this thing in with a pod with 2 of them, maybe, you could use it to go super heavy tank hunting at the start of a match, but if you're doing that, like, you've spent the cost of a super heavy right away, and all the enemy needs to do is just, they'll see that you're gun armed, so they can just charge a bunch of useless shit into you, like cultists, or, maybe a big blob of 20 tacticals with a chaplain. 20 tacticals and a chaplain costs like fucking 230 points. You're like 350 points. Fuck. They'll tie you down all game. They don't give a shit, right? So it's not worth it. This thing is just not worth it. The Leviathan's terrible. The best weapon on it is the Phosphex Discharger. The Phosphex Discharger is range 6 inches to 18 inches. It's strength 5. It's AP 2. It's heavy 3. It's blast 3 inches. It's poison 3+. It has crawling fire. It has lingering death, so it remains in play. Right? You get to move the blast marker after it hits up to 2 inches as long as it covers more models. That's fantastic. But it's 1 use only. This thing is way too many points. You drop this thing 50 points, right? Or make the war gear options much cheaper for it. Completely different rating. It would go to a fantastic rating. But at the moment, this thing is an underpowered knight. And in a meta full of overpowered knights, what are people going to go for, right? Again, talking about things it's good in, Zone Mortalis. One of these with a core and a drill in Zone Mortalis will be very fucking scary. On an open table in large points matches, like 3,000 points, things like that, this thing will struggle to get across the board, if at all. The only thing that seems to save these, realistically, is lack of people firing at them. Doesn't matter if they've got a 4+ invulnerable save. Right? Think about it. How many times has someone lost a Praetor? Right? With a 4+ invulnerable save. How many times have people lost Terminators with Storm Shields, which have 3+ invulnerable saves? Right? You can't rely on that save. It's only armor 13. It's not armor 14. Armor 14 is the magical number. 14 with flare shields, preferably. This thing, if anyone's got Haywire, this thing's going to eat shit and die so badly to Haywire. Right? Since most of its weapons are 24 inches range or worse, this thing's going to be walking across the board. If you've got Graviton cannons, they can fire at least 2 volleys before this thing's even in fucking range. Right? You think that on 2 pluses to glance, it's not going to lose a hull point? And again, it suffers from the same thing that all vehicles do that aren't super heavies, in that you roll a 6 on that damage result, and your AP 2 or 1, fucking kaboom, 1 hit, taken out. And I have seen players who that's happened to, and the look on their face, it's like watching a player who runs like a Khorne Berserker army roll a fucking double 1 on their assault. It's just, you could see a little bit of them die inside. So yeah, is it shit? No, it's not shit. It's not shit, but it is really at the bottom end of mediocre. Anyway, I know I waffle on a bit in this episode, but it's really hard to get the point across with this thing. I love the model. I think it's great in a lot of ways. It's the points. The points aren't worth it for what you get. Like with Land Raiders in the past, where they started dropping the points of Land Raiders in Horus Heresy, I'm hoping they do the same thing with this. And I also hope that they also put in restrictions to it, stop it going into things like Zone Mortalis and in like very low points games, because it will dominate in the low points games. Right? This thing hits a happy spot, 1500 and below. And it needs to be stopped from hogging it up. It's just like the Iron Circle, Domitar Castafarium, or whatever they're called, from the Iron Warriors. Right? Low points matches and Zone Mortalis, these things are fucking scary, scary things. But as it stands, regular games of Horus Heresy, it's a big no from me. Thanks all for watching the episode. Leave your feedback below, and I'll see you all next time.